Hello, this is Anthony. Let's walk and talk. I rarely do this, but I did a video this morning, and afterwards I felt called to follow that video up with another video. And this video is going to be slightly different. It's not going to be on the same subject as what we discussed this morning. It's going to be on for those of you who are experiencing heartbreak or having a difficulty in your romantic relationships, having a difficulty understanding the dynamic, maybe something just ended, or maybe you're finding yourself struggling in a relationship. And what I want to talk to you about is this. Life is a mystery, and it's meant to be a mystery. And the reason why it's meant to be a mystery and why it's so important is because if you knew exactly what was going to happen and you knew when it was going to happen, life would become very, very boring and predictable. And, as you begin your spiritual awakening, you start to see the patterns, which makes things become predictable anyways. And so, having, the universe unfold everything for you before it happens is, it would take away the beautiful flavors and spices and zest in life. But I know one of the most difficult things in a romantic relationship is when it ends and because someone doesn't choose you. And here's what's really important, and this is what you begin to understand more as you begin to love yourself and love all the depths of yourself and really, truly, unconditionally love yourself. You'll stop judging yourself. I tell people I don't judge because the world, because in judging the world, I recognize that the hardest person on me is me, and if I'm judging the world, then I'm going to judge myself even more harshly. And because I have come to a place of peace and love for self, I understand that, the journey is more difficult enough, and there are aspects of self that are there for a purpose and for a reason. And judging it would be suggesting that I am not perfect even in my imperfection, and that's just not true. Because I've always said this, we are all perfect in our imperfection. Now, when a relationship ends because someone doesn't choose you, you have to understand that they're not choosing you because of you. They're not choosing you because you're not good enough. They're not choosing you because of themselves. Now, I don't mean that in a negative manner. Here's what I'll explain to you what I mean by that. I had an incredible, amazing relationship since my twin flame relationship, and I felt, it took me a while to accept, but I had very deep love for this person. And, I really thought that the relationship experience that we shared was beautiful, and it was rare. And I thought I had found someone that I was going to walk through life with, only to find out later that person didn't choose me. Now, do I believe that person loves me? Of course. They recognize, and I say this not out of ego, because it's something that they shared with me many times, that their comments were, you're incredible. If this doesn't work, I'll never meet another person like you. I'll never meet another person that could love me the way you love me. And you would think that in that statement alone, that would mean that person's going to choose you. That person's going to, select you because you are clearly different than anything they've ever experienced in a good way. However, you have to understand something very important. People are going to choose things based on where they're at in their journey. This person had really kind of just begun their healing journey, and they were still at that phase where I think they could see the value in it, but they were very resistant of it. And for me, what I projected back to them was something that was very unfamiliar. It was unconditional love. It was loving them for who they were, and also loving them for who I knew they were going to be after they healed. In essence, not only loving them for them in the moment, but also loving them for some people would say, the potential of what they could be, should they, venture forward and grow in their journey. And ultimately the relationship ended. But the relationship didn't end because I was any less incredible or amazing. The relationship ended because there were still things in them that they were having difficulty with. Things in them where they, weren't willing to be honest with themselves, that things that they weren't loving within themselves. Being in a position where they didn't feel like they deserved to be loved in the manner in which I am capable of loving, that hurts. Even when it ends, it still hurts. But you recognize that they didn't, like I recognize, for instance, this person didn't choose me, not because I wasn't worthy. It had nothing to do with me. It had to do with, things that were still unhealed within them, things that inside of them that they felt like they weren't worthy of, things inside of them that made them feel like they didn't deserve to have this rare and incredible relationship. And I'm not, some people might listen to this and go, oh well, Anthony's being delusional. I'm not. This is not a delusion, because anytime you're in a relationship with someone, a lot of times, especially in those moments of vulnerability, even when it's difficult for someone to be vulnerable, they share with you a lot about how they feel. And so this person, I'm not latching on to one instance where this person shared things with me like this. In the extended period of time that we were in a relationship, this person shared this with me a lot, multiple times. So this isn't a delusion. So I tell you this because of this. When relationships end, it can hurt. When relationships end, a lot of times that's where the ego wants to pop up and judge it and say, oh, they are narcissists, they're horrible, they suck. But in reality, you have to take accountability. I selected that person, and I'm grateful because I learned an incredible amount about myself and who I am on this journey. And I learned, and hopefully I taught this person a lot of incredible things about themselves. But at the end of the day, they didn't choose me. But they didn't choose me because of me. They didn't choose me because of them. They even had past relationships that, quite frankly, I don't think that they had even resolved in their mind. And so, even when you meet someone and it appears that they check all the boxes, and maybe vice versa, if they haven't healed from their past, including their past relationships, then what'll happen is you may check 10 out of 10 boxes for that person, but there may be one thing that a former person did, a physical feature or whatever, that this person just can't let go, and you're always going to be compared to that. And at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, when you love yourself unconditionally, do you want somebody to choose you even though you're not the person that they want? Do you want someone to choose you because they see all the things that you offer that they could want, but you're not who they want? Because what I've actually discovered on this journey is I want somebody to choose me because of me. I want somebody to choose me because after spending time with me and interacting with me, they can't imagine living their life without me. because those are the relationships that can stand the test of time. And maybe that'll happen in this lifetime, and maybe it won't. It's irrelevant for me. Either way, I love self and I love my life. So even though this is an experience that I think I would desire, it's not one that I require. You see, the person that will choose you, in every relationship it takes work and it's difficult. And there are hard conversations, and there's evolution and growth that needs to occur. Okay, but when someone chooses you, those conversations can be very easy, because there's safety, because they see you and they desire you and they know who you are and they choose you. And so having those conversations won't cause them to want to leave. You see, if you're in a relationship with somebody who isn't choosing you, then what is the point of being in the relationship? For all the aspects of ego? So you're not alone? Are you afraid of being alone? That's something you should explore. For lust? Is it because you can't overcome that base need or desire? Well, maybe that's something you should review in yourself. You see, it's important to understand these things, because I now accept, after having gone through some of these experiences, that really what it helps me to better understand what I desire in a partner. And that is an amazing gift, because a lot of times we think we want certain things in our partner based on our experiences, maybe of our family or our parents or of our friends, things that, remember, we talk about all the time, what's familiar. But sometimes the thing that is familiar is the thing that is not healthy. The thing that is familiar is the thing that you're supposed to learn from and walk away from and not accept. And let's just assume that this person was with you in a relationship, then they left you to go be with somebody else and decided the grass wasn't greener, that you were better, and then they return. Well, let me ask you a question. What makes you think that that's not going to happen again? If they didn't choose you the first time, why would you assume they're going to choose you the second time? You see, when I talked the other day about the parable of the mansion of life, the reason I enjoy parables, and I'm working on being better at it, because I, quite frankly, am a little bit more direct, if you haven't already figured out, is a parable doesn't have to apply just to one thing. It can apply to a multitude of things, which is why parables are amazing, because they cause you to really ponder life and ponder experiences. And the answer just isn't given to you. It allows you to reach into your inner wisdom to help you to discover your path. And if, in the mansion of life, there are no doors. So yes, of course, you might desire to go back to another room. However, if you step into that room and the decorations aren't different, there isn't different art and different furniture for you to experience, that means that that room hasn't changed, that there is no growth in that room, and the result is likely going to be the same. You're going to some point have to move into another room. You see, this is the beauty of the mansion of life. And no, it does not just apply to relationships, it applies to all aspects of life. So, what say you? How do you feel about that? You see, I recognize that people sometimes make bad choices and they make mistakes. However, a lot of times they make those bad choices and mistakes off of experiences or traumas that they've yet to resolve. And until those traumas and experiences are resolved, the likelihood is that they'll continue to make those bad mistakes. And you have to ask yourself this: if you're well into your healing journey, or you've already completed the healing journey, and I say complete, with a caveat, which is, I truly believe that the entirety of the rest of your life is going to be about uncovering and learning more about the depths of self, which might also include healing. If they're not even well onto their journey and they've just begun, then you have to ask yourself this question: if you truly love yourself unconditionally, do you want to be with somebody that even though they've just begun the journey, you don't know how long it's going to take them to reach the end of their journey. You don't know if they're even committed to growth and to reaching the end of their journey. And do you want to waste years and years of your life after you've put in all the work because you're afraid that you might not run into that divine counterpart that could be that being that could help you as you help them to grow and learn and understand self and love and connection and relationships more deeply? You see, Keanu Reeves said something once. He said, being alone can be dangerous. Again, I'm paraphrasing here. Because once you truly learn to love self and appreciate self, you become much more discerning about who you allow into that space. That should be more applicable to a romantic relationship than any other relationship, because if a relationship can't bring you peace, if a relationship doesn't bring you connection and contentment and understanding, then if you're really on the spiritual journey, if you really have healed, is it really the relationship you're supposed to be in? Something to think about. Again, but what say you? I'm curious as to how you feel about that. I'm curious as to what questions you might have about that. Also, as I stated before, if there's any information or content that you'd like me to do videos, please, feel free to comment. As always, the disclaimer: if you enjoy this content, please like, share, and subscribe. I am grateful. Until I talk to you again, peace, love, light. Have the most amazing day.